Oh god, it's been a while, hasn't it? What's up guys, it's me Kenny Fair. For the first time in 2 years, well, this video is gonna flop. That's beside the point though, because today I'll be counting down my personal top 25 roller coasters as of June of 2026. Now before we get into this video, I have a few things to rattle off. First, go follow my Instagram. I post a lot more stuff there than I do on here, and we're almost at 1,000 followers, so it'd be greatly appreciated. Secondly, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm planning on posting a lot more than I have, which I know isn't saying much, but I want to make videos again for you guys. Lastly, if you haven't already, comment and subscribe. It'll help this video get out to the YouTube algorithm and show me you guys would like more videos like this. Anyways, thank you for watching and enjoy the video. Also, I have a credit count of 73, so please don't make fun of me for this list. This placement just proves how untraveled I am. Starting this list off, we have the Bat at Kings Island in Mason, Ohio. The Bat is an aero-suspended coaster that opened in 1993 themed to the movie Top Gun, later being renamed to Flight Deck in 2008, then once again being renamed to the Bat in 2014, as an homage to the Bat that opened in 1981 as the prototype to the aero-suspended coaster. This version failed, however, leading to its closure in 1983. But besides all of that, the current iteration of the Bat is an absolute blast, with a 70-foot first drop, which leads into a layout that in my opinion truly emphasizes how this type of ride should ride. The swinging motion feels so much different than any other coaster I've been on. Even if this is somewhat a family coaster, I love it all the same. At number 24, we have the first of many Bolliger and Mabillard roller coasters on this list, Gatekeeper at Cedar Point. Gatekeeper is a perfect example of a presentational roller coaster. Its zero G-roll and inline twist over the front gate are just absolute spectacles, and not to mention the ride is good in its own right. Tons of force is exerted throughout the whole ride, except for the part after the mid-course. That part kinda sucks. That's the only part of the ride that's dull for me though, in my opinion. Nonetheless, Gatekeeper is a very solid ride.
I won't forget you, buddy.
Batwing was so much fun. How could anyone hate this thing? It was so jank, but so much fun. The positives you feel when you go through that vertical loop is absolutely nuts. There's so much weight on your body throughout that element and throughout the whole ride in fact. I'll miss this ride so much as it was my first Flying Dutchman, and last, but also my first flying coaster in general. Rest in peace. Raptor at Cedar Point has a soft spot in my heart. It was my first B&M and my first invert period. I haven't ridden it since 2022, however, when I last went to Cedar Point it was closed the whole day. I was bummed, but Cedar Point is so stacked I was okay with missing it. Even with this fact, Raptor has an insane layout which tries to rip your face off with positives unrivaled by most coasters at Cedar Point. Candemonium is another B&M with a soft spot in my heart, because this was my first hyper from them. I love Candemonium a lot more than other people. I think some of the elements that were introduced on this ride really make it stand out for me, like that wrap around the kissing fountain is just so cool to me. But anyways, the ride is just plain good and fun. I hope to come back to Hershey someday and re-ride this super underrated ride. With all of this being said, however, I do think that it doesn't deliver in some aspects, which really does suck. Steel Curtain, more like outcome out certain. Anyway, Steel Curtain has had a tumultuous history, much like the Steelers since 2010. Sorry, Steelers fans. First opening in 2019 as Pennsylvania's tallest coaster at 220 feet, with the most inversions in North America at 9, and the world's tallest inversion at 197 feet. Very unique, just like the Steelers quarterback situation.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
But the ride would soon suffer major downtime, with it being closed the entire 2020 season and most of 2021. 2022 and 2023 showed promise, but in 2023 structural issues arose, causing the ride to be down the rest of the year, and the entirety of 2024. In 2025, it would reopen with new supports and has stayed reliable since. The ride experience is actually really good, with it being very intense and smooth. The ride is also just a marvel. I mean, just look at the support structure of this thing. It's freaking nuts. I don't need to introduce this ride to you guys. This might be the most famous ride of all time other than any Disney or Universal ride. The night rides on this thing are also insane, with you just flying through the forest completely in the dark. That's all I need to justify having it this high on my list. Also, the Gravity Group has done wonders on this thing throughout the years. Much love, Beast. Yet another Six Flags America coaster, but I'm a lot less sad about this one than Batwing, as there's a clone closer to me than where Six Flags America was. Anyways, the sense of speed this ride had was insane, with good airtime moments and good positives. Also, the straight track really exemplified the speed. I know that's probably a hot take, but I kinda like the straight track. The better Ohio B&M invert by quite a bit in my opinion, but also my favorite out of the three that I've rode. Sorry Great Bear, that's not a dock to you. But that's besides the point. Banshee feels like it is literally about to tear you apart. Kinda because of those vest restraints, which are fine in my opinion, but do kinda come down throughout the ride duration. But that's besides the point, because this ride is just ridiculous with its 7 inversions and intense G-forces. Storm Runner is sadly the only hydraulic launch coaster I've ever ridden. Opening in 2004 to major appeal, it's probably the only hydraulic launch coaster that hasn't really had an insane amount of downtime. But Storm Runner has an insane run of elements. That top hat has insane airtime, and the inversions are very unique, with the Flying Snake Dive being one of my favorite elements of all time.
Number 15, Burger King Foot Lettuce.
Jokes aside, at number 15 we have Fahrenheit at Hershey Park. I know this might be a bit of a hot take, but hear me out on this one. This is basically just Maverick, which will be on this list later, if it was a Gerstlauer Eurofighter, but better, and also made by Intamin. That beyond vertical 97-degree drop is insane, and the inversions are also nothing to scoff at. It's also super duper intense. See what I did there? Overall, good job Hershey Park. You made 2 pretty good Intamins, and no more than that. Definitely not one more on this list. Remember when I said like 2 minutes ago that the Beast is the most iconic non-Disney or Universal ride? Well, this one might give the Beast a run for its money. Not only is it iconic, but it's also an incredible ride experience from that first drop to that final overbank. Millie has been glazed and hated to death by coaster critics and GP alike, but one thing remains the same. If you say this thing is forceless, then you're just wrong. Hate to break it, but I gray out on this thing every single time. Granted, all my rides have either been in the late afternoon or at night, and also I was probably really dehydrated, so I'm probably not the person to ask about that because I'm kind of biased, but whatever. Yet another B&M Hyper, but the better of the 2 that I've been on. Diamondback is an airtime machine, much more than Candemonium. Sorry for the stray, but it's true. But Diamondback's night rides are why it's up so high. Flying through the woods at 70 miles per hour is such an euphoric experience, and I couldn't recommend them more. Even though Valraven next door dwarfs this thing in size, Siren's Curse delivers way stronger than its much taller sister ride. The tilt exemplifies this fact by a ton, and I love it so much. Without the tilt, the layout is still incredible, but the tilt adds so much more to the ride. But even after the tilt, the layout applies incredible G's throughout the ride. Not to mention, it's the smoothest coaster I've ever been on. Finally, we get to the first Dollywood coaster to make this list, and that's no knock towards Dollywood or anything. The rides not mentioned on this list are all very quality. But anyways, Thunderhead is a GCI Twister layout, and I am an absolute sucker for these things. I've only been on one, and it was this one, obviously, but still. The ride is smooth as hell, as I rode it after its extensive retracking, and the ride's just plain intense. Many lateral and positive elements sprinkled throughout the ride. Its use of terrain is also elite, and this won't be the only terrain coaster on this list.
Kicking off the top 10 with a bang, we have Maverick at Cedar Point. I love this ride so damn much. The ejector airtime and the lateral moments, the positive G's in that second launch are just killer. I can't wait for the next time I ride this thing, which is in like 2 days as I'm recording this, as I wasn't able to grab a ride last time I was at Cedar Point. But little fun fact, this ride was actually my number one for one day because the current number one was down.
At number 9, we have Mystic Timbers. Yet another GCI coaster to make the list, and another Kings Island coaster as well. I know it might be a very hot take to have this ride above Maverick, but this ride just smacks, especially at night. It's filled with ejector airtime throughout the layout, and it doesn't let up. And yeah, the shed kinda blows, but it doesn't subtract from the ride experience at all. Absolutely brilliant coaster. At number 8, we have Skyrush. Yeah, Hershey and Intamin were kind of the power couple of the 2000s and early 2010s, if you couldn't tell. Sadly, this was the last Intamin attraction at Hershey Park, which is a true shame. Skyrush is an elite ride, top tier, which obviously, as it is my number 8 of all time. That first drop hauls as the cable lift flies up the lift hill, kind of like Maverick's lift hill, but even faster. And the airtime this ride delivers is absolutely nuts. Before you get all like, but the restraints sucked, they're not that bad, or were that bad. I haven't had an opportunity to try the new restraints, but they seem pretty good actually. At number 7, we have Magnum XL200. Before you get all on me for this placement, let me tell you I've always been biased towards these type of rides. A certain coaster at my home park, and will be on this list later, was somewhat inspired by this ride, and I thank Magnum for that always. Anyways, Magnum XL200 is probably the most divisive coaster of all time, and I can definitely see why. This ride is insane. Those final airtime hills are probably one of the reasons I'm addicted to ejector airtime. You don't get better airtime anywhere else than the final run of Triangle Hills on Magnum in the Magic Seat. Now, this ride is so jank, but it's so good. So good. At number 6, we have Wildcats Revenge. Yeah, this ride's nuts. I absolutely love RMCs, and this is no different than the other two I've ridden, which you'll see later on this list. But as I was talking about with Magnum, I am a fool for ejector airtime, and I'm glad to say this ride definitely delivers in that department. The airtime on this ride is whack. It's almost on every element other than a few where the ride delivers more lateral and floater elements, which are also so great, don't get me wrong. Also, best coaster at Hershey, but that's not a knock towards every other ride in the park, except for Jolly Rancher Remix. Literally one of the worst coasters I've ever ridden. At number 5, we have Phantom's Revenge. What do I need to say about this ride that hasn't already been preached about a million times? This is probably the coaster I'm most biased to, but even with that, this ride is just straight bonkers. The restraints feel illegal, as well as those final airtime hills. The sense of speed is just ridiculous, as the top speed of 85 miles per hour that's in the valley is just straight up insane. And the first drop isn't anything to scoff at either, as the twisted drop heavily reminds me of those GCIs I was raving about earlier. But Phantom will always hold a special spot in my heart, as it was the roller coaster that got me over my fear of roller coasters, and also made me a coaster enthusiast. So thank you, Phantom, for that. At number 4, we have Orion. Orion is probably the most controversial coaster in Ohio, not named Magnum XL200. Jokes aside, Orion has gotten this odd reputation of being weak, short in length and duration, and being plain forceless. While I cannot speak on the second one, as that's up to opinion, I can speak on its forces. This ride has insane speed and power. Orion flies through its layout with its incredible wave turn, speed hill, and helix referred to as Orion's Belt, which I think is such a clever name, being named after the real constellation Orion's Belt of Stars. But back to the ride itself, it's just a joy to ride. This ride was also my 50th coaster, so I also have a soft spot for it. Also, it is a Giga. I don't know why people think it's a Hyper. Well, I mean, I do, but it's not. At number 3, we have Top Thrill 2. Now, I know what all of you are thinking. Kenny Fair, you only have Top Thrill 2 this high due to recency bias. 1, it's a 20-year-old coaster with one more element on it. 2, it's just that good. Top Thrill 2 can be described in 2 words: pure insanity. I know it might not be as intense as the original Top Thrill Dragster, but it's a worthy successor at the very least. My dad's #1 roller coaster of all time is Top Thrill Dragster, and he said Top Thrill 2 is tied with the original Dragster. Although the punchy hydraulic launch is no more, Top Thrill 2 delivers on what the original Top Thrill Dragster didn't: ride duration. And that is enough for me to put it as my number 3 coaster of all time. At number 2, we have Lightning Rod at Dollywood. Just as a preface, I rode Lightning Rod in July of 2023 when the launch was still around. With that being said, I really wish they would have kept the launch. I haven't ridden it without it yet, so my ranking hasn't changed at all since I've ridden it. The change just looks boring. The ride lost all of the charm that made the original so charming to begin with. But looking back at the layout, it absolutely smacked with the launch, of course, especially in the back rows. That quad down was one of, if not my most anticipated element on any coaster, and I'm glad to say it delivered. Once again, wish they would have kept the launch, but the original will always be insane to me. It's a true shame. At number 1, of course, it's Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point. Genuinely, what do I need to say? This ride has been praised so much I can make an entire video on it. Like and comment if you would like to see that. But Steel Vengeance isn't just any coaster made by RMC, it's the best. I know I've only been on 3 and 73 coasters overall, but literally who the hell cares? This ride doesn't let up. The first run of huge elements wins me over every time I ride it. The second half is pure gold and so chaotic. You're literally out of your seat for 1/3 of the ride experience. I'm not even kidding. This ride has 28 seconds of airtime. That is nuts. The only rides I could see dethroning it for me are Egenica, Iron Gwazi, and maybe Pantherian. But anyway, Steel Vengeance is the greatest coaster of all time, yada yada, argue with a wall. Well, I hope I wasn't out for milk for too long. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, while also checking out my Instagram if you want to see my photos, while also seeing when I go to parks. I'll also be posting more on here, so keep an eye out for more posts. Anyways, have a great day, and I'll see you guys next time.